What's up, guys? It's Uncle Freedom, and today we're going to talk about something that I got to witness firsthand last week on Monday, and I think it's something that behooves all of us to pay attention to it, and that is familiarization of your kit and what happens when we introduce stress into that equation. So if that sounds like something that's fun and interesting to you, I guarantee you will get something out of this. Go ahead and like, subscribe, tell a friend. Check out my backlog of videos. There's all kinds of stuff. I even have a playlist that just covers medical gear. I'm moderately disappointed that those videos don't have more views. They were older when I first started the channel because I am a medic guy. So bringing that medical information out was very important to me. I was really shocked that those didn't blow up the way they did. But, hey, YouTube is YouTube, and that's how it works. And I'm going to keep making videos about things I want to talk about and try to draw attention to things that people really need to pay attention to, much like my uncomfortable truths of prepping, Volume 1 and Volume 2. If you haven't checked those out, please go look at those. Also, some other fun ones are my top 10 waste of money in kit and my missed opportunities when training with firearms. I was actually really proud of the missed opportunities video. Just going to say it. I was kind of sad it's not blowing up, but maybe one day. So anyway, guys, familiarization of kit is a big deal. You may not realize it's a big deal, but where does it apply at? First thing we have to decide when we talk about your kit is knowing what you have. If you run 9 different kits and you have no idea what's in what pouch and where it is, you don't know shit. You have to know what you have. There is just this huge monumental benefit that comes from knowing what you have in any individual kit that helps you when you make decisions about what to do with it. The second part of this is knowing where you put it. I've done this. I know all of my friends have done this, and I'm pretty sure most of you have done this too if you spent any time on a range, which is you start digging around in a pouch for an item that you have. It is just not where you put it at all. It's like having small children. Where's the remote control? I don't know. Who had it last? Charlie? Where did it go? Jesus Christ. We can't find the remote control. That's why I put Velcro on my shit that sticks to things. We also have 3 remote controls because I have children. But knowing where you put the things that are in your kit is very important, because how are you going to retrieve them if you don't remember where you put it? Seems innocuous enough, but it's a real problem and it happens all the time. The next one is keeping your setups consistent. This is important and applicable in almost every facet. Let's look at rifles. If you have 5 different rifles and you like to take those rifles out for different situations, you will notice if you have one that is operated differently than the rest of them, it will take you a minute to get functional on that gun at a higher level. That is because it is not the same as the other ones you're running. You will notice through my plate carriers, I have 3 plate carriers that I run pretty much consistently. I have a heavier rig, I have a rig for SAR stuff, and I have a reaction rig for call-out stuff. Those 3 rigs on the front are almost identical. 3 mags, right? It's 3 mags in every one of them, and there's med kit on the side. All of them are the same because it's consistent. It doesn't matter which one I put on, I can get to what I need to get to. And the place where it is arguably the most important is in your med kit. I know it's hard unless you buy 5 of the exact same medical pouches, knowing where each individual item is in every kit. But there's a method to this, okay? And there's a reason we have SOPs. Like if you go into the military, for those of you that have done this, you know exactly what I'm talking about. All of your shit is exactly set up the exact same way. That's because if I run up to Billy who's bleeding out on the ground, I know where Billy's tourniquet is. I know where his med kit is, and I can rip it off his body and use it on him, because individual IFAK, individual first aid kit is for you. If you're carrying it, it is not to treat other people. It is to protect yourself in case you get wounded. Use other people's shit on them. If they did not have the forethought to have a first aid kit, you're going to have to dip in your stuff because you can't let him die out of spite because he was unprepared. You have to, simple always wins in this world. The simpler your solution to this problem is, the more effective it will be. If you complicate this, I promise you're going to fuck it up. The simpler you have a setup to be, the more effective you will be at using it and understanding the capabilities of it and your familiarization with it. If you have 47 individual pouches inside of your fucking med kit, you will not be able to find the item you need. If your shit is just rubber banded in place, I promise you'll find it. Okay? The more simple you can keep this, the better off you are going to be. You have to keep in mind when we start talking about rifles and stuff like that, there's a funny thing that happens in your brain, and that is that every time you deal with a scenario or a situation, your brain like codes a path to that, right? Which makes you be able to deal with the stress of seeing that situation again. Well, here's the problem. If you have 5 different kits and they're all slightly different, your brain, when faced with a real trauma, will have to touch each one of those individual things before it picks the one that's actually right for the situation. So the more simple you keep your approach, the less shit your brain's got to touch in order for you to get moving. So like I said, biggest thing is this applies to everything. Your rifles, your chest rigs, your plate carriers, and most importantly, your medical gear. Now, why is this subject so important? All right. If I introduce stress into a situation that you've touched 100 times with unfamiliar kit now, it will all fall apart. Things will begin to go really wrong really, really fast. So one of the things I do in law enforcement is I teach TACMED. I am a federally certified and licensed TACMED instructor. That's a real thing. FLETC's, who does the trainings, Federal Law Enforcement Training Center. I am a TACMED instructor, which means I can provide provider level training and certify people as providers in TACMED for all of the stuff using the March algorithm and being able to stop bleed and do all this stuff. I can go out and teach this to other people. Well, one of the new things that we've done in Nebraska is we now provide TACMED instruction, and you come out of the basic academy as a TACMED provider. We go through the PowerPoint, you do all of this stuff, and then we run you through scenarios, because you don't learn this stuff in a book or in a classroom. You actually have to go out and experience it for yourself. And that's how it becomes a real thing you can do. When I went through the instructor course, it is very heavy on practical application of things. You would be amazed at what would trip you up. So I'll give you an example of something they do to us when we go to TACMED instructor. You are handed a soft T tourniquet, which is much more flexible than a cap. It can also unbuckle, which is really useful. And what we'll do with that is we will take it and you will tie it in knots, undo it, wrap it up, fold the band so it can't be pulled through. You will do all kinds of really jacked up shit to this tourniquet. And then you put a blindfold on and you hand it to the guy behind you, and he hands you the one that he just jacked up. You know a tourniquet back to front. Everybody's put one on hundreds and hundreds of times. You know how this thing operates. And now, as you're sitting there on a timer, which they tell you you're on a timer, you're trying to get this tourniquet unknotted so you can put it on. This is the worst case scenario to be in. And then they start shooting at you. And they're yelling at you, mind you, you're blindfolded, to find cover to fix this. So now your brain's trying to process, how do I find cover? Your brain's trying to process, first off, where the hell am I at? Because I can't see anything. And I know I was in this room like 30 seconds ago when I put this blindfold on, but I have no idea where I'm at. You also have a group of individuals who are all having the same problem. So that means you're being crawled on top of, you're crawling on top of other people. You're using other people for cover at this point, because screw it, you have to find cover. That's the goal. The whole time you're trying to undo this tourniquet just to put it on your limb. And then when you get it on, you have to tighten it down, and they come by and check it. And if it's not tight enough, they get a pulse out of you. You fail. You do it again. And we do this again over and over and over and over again. And what that is to get your brain used to the idea that things don't work the way you want them to. You're going to have to be able to problem solve in the middle of a high stress environment. That progresses throughout the day until we get into scenario building. And when we start doing scenarios, it's not, this guy's wounded, fix him. No, we have fake blood, shit squirting out of people. We dummies. If you're not doing the pressure right, things are wrong. If you don't do the timing right, things are wrong. You're being sprayed in the face with fake blood. It is a high stress environment. You would be amazed how this simple ordeal, isn't real, just ramps up your fight or flight response. And for those of us that do this shit for a living, we fight. That's what we do. It's already a known thing. But your brain is trying to process what you're seeing, what the wounds are, what's your proper or appropriate treatment for these wounds, and what do you need to do, for medical intervention. Because keep in mind, the right medical intervention at the wrong time is the wrong medical intervention. Period. So now we're stressed and we're trying to do this. And you would be amazed at how fast things fell apart. And these are people that were all TACMED people before they got there. I had a long history in TCCC training and lifesaver training and paramedic world and stuff like that, and EMS before I got here. And it still threw me for a loop. So what we ended up doing when we teach this class is these are new students. Some of them have medical backgrounds with paramedics. All kinds of people become cops. And we have them build a trauma kit. We hand them all of the items needed: chest seals, gauze, Olays bandages, tourniquets, everything. And we have them stock a trauma kit in a very specific pattern. Then that trauma kit is put onto their belt. Now keep in mind, this is the first time they've ever had this trauma kit. They've had tourniquets the whole time, but the first time they've ever had a trauma kit. And then we're going to take them, and now that they have all their stuff in there, now we're going to take them and we're going to start running them through mild scenarios. Like I taught assessment and second assessment. That is, you're assessing the patient, you're trying to find injuries, and then you're going to take fire. Now you have to drag your patient to another zone. And you'd be amazed at how quick people's brains quit working. Like, this dude's legs still work. He can help me push himself away. People didn't do it because their brain turned off during the stress and they were so focused on what they thought they had to do versus doing it the right way. So you start introducing stress there. By the time we get to lunch, though, now it's real. Now we have fake blood out. People are covered in fake blood. You've been taught all of the basic skills: how to do assessments, how to do second assessments, how to do a tourniquet, how to do a pressure dressing, how to pack a wound. You've been taught how to apply chest seals. You've been taught how to rake a body. You've been taught all of the basics. And you've got this med kit that you've now had hands-on with for about 4 hours. And then we take you after lunch and we throw you immediately into high-stress scenarios. When I say high-stress scenarios, I mean 5 to 15 instructors, fake blood going everywhere, because we all have the ability to spray you with fake blood. We're all screaming, and people are shooting. We're shooting airsoft guns at people. We're shooting blanks. Everything's making noise at this point. And we gave them radios, so they have to be able to talk to people while this is going on. People are getting walked on. Radios aren't working. People are frustrated by this situation, and the brain turns off, and they can't function anymore because we introduced stress. Not even real stress. Like, nobody's really trying to kill you here. Nobody's going to die on the ground. But that little bit of stress turned it all off. So when we would do these, take my scenario we had. My scenario I ran was a wounded officer, down, shots fired, multiple casualties, right? Your drive to that is you have to run out and engage in this. You have to do cop shit first, which is find the bad guy and neutralize the bad guy. But then you have to provide medical aid. I watched guys that could not process they could use the downed officer's med kit at all, so they ran out of tourniquets before getting to another victim. I watched guys that they had been in and out of this med kit 15 or 20 times so far during the day, and they could not find anything in this med kit. They had no idea where it was. They're pulling out chest seals and putting it on arm wounds. Like, it's just the brain turned off and they can't process what they're doing. I watched one guy as we're sitting there, and we had a guy with a simulated brachial bleed, so it's pumping blood out this way. We're telling him, put a tourniquet on it. Put a tourniquet on it. And he's sitting there, and I'm spraying, and I'm like, who's called from EMS? Who's telling dispatch what's wrong? Has anybody told them the shooter's down? Has anybody told them how many buses we need? And you're yelling this at them, so their brain is trying to process this. I watched one kid glaze over completely on his knees and slowly back away from me and the victim that he was trying to help. And I'm yelling at him, where do you think you're going? You don't get to quit. You have to finish what you're doing. His brain couldn't do it because we put some stress involved into something that he had just done pretty well in a training environment. And now we've stressed him out to the point where he literally turned off and backed away because he couldn't deal with it. He had no idea what to do. I can't tell you how many times I looked at a student and said, calm down, take a breath. What do you need to do? What's important now? What happens first? And you would see, like, the wheels would, some of the guys would re-engage immediately and they would start calling EMS. They'd call who they needed to call. They would let dispatch know who was down, what was happening. You would be amazed how many times guys didn't secure guns. We would have officers get wounded because they were so focused on the down guy that they forgot that they had to do the cop shit first because somebody had a gun. I watched one guy who came out and his brain, because we were firing loud stuff and he knew that somebody was going to shoot at him, would not let him take a corner because he just knew as soon as he took the corner, he was going to be shot. And his brain wouldn't let him do it because his self-preservation kicked in, and you don't get to do that in our line of work. You have to go. So I watched him do that. And then as we're yelling at him, when we finally get him snapped out of it and got him to move, he disengaged from his surroundings and focused solely on this downed officer. And he's running at him, and he never saw the guy 6 feet over because he had tunnel vision because of stress, who had a sim gun, and he turned around and shot him in the rib cage. Well, now he's wounded, and we have to treat that just like a real situation. You're wounded. What do? This guy almost quit. He sat his gun down. He was mad. And I'm like, you don't get to be mad. You have to finish the problem. Work the problem. This is the problem. How do you solve the problem? But all day long, we watched guys who had now, as we got to the end of the day, these guys had been through 3 or 4 scenarios at this point. They had used this medical gear over and over and over again. And you would still watch their brain shut off and them not be able to prioritize what needed to happen. You had guys that are worried about, trying to fix a minor wound on the calf, and the guy's got like a hole in his thigh and he's pumping blood out. And like, we're being rough about it. When you get over to treat, we're spraying you in the face with blood and you're just coated in crap, and you're trying to solve this problem because real world arterial bleeds are messy and you're going to get covered in shit. It's same deal. Like, we would do it like knee drop, pressure on the wound. If all of a sudden you removed pressure, we'd start spraying you with blood because you're not holding pressure to the wound anymore. And that stuff was enough to short circuit most of their brains. And the thing was, everybody's debrief went the same, which is, you need to understand that you have to build your kit, and then you have to become so familiar with that kit that if I blindfolded you tomorrow, you could reach in and give me a certain item out of your kit. You have to know where it is. So you can, that is one less thing that takes up space in your brain while you're dealing with a situation. Consistency is key here, and familiarization with your kit is everything, because the less brain power you have to devote to how this safety works, or where my mag is, or where the pistol mag is, or where my med kit is, or where the stuff is in my med kit, the less brain power we have to dedicate to that means the more brain power that I can dedicate to calling who I need to call, treating the wounded, hunting the bad guy. And I don't have to worry about, which gun is this? Oh, shit. Where's my med kit on this carrier? The more consistent you are with how you set your kit up, and the more familiarization you have with each kit, go put yourself under some stress. Stress with your buddies is fine. Make people yell, make it loud, make there be repercussions for getting it wrong. And then work the system until something breaks, and then figure out why it broke. Force yourself to slow down and process the situation. But the more consistency you have and familiarization you have with your setups, kits, med gear, the less brain power it is going to take for you to be able to process that. And you'll be able to process on saving lives, defending people, protecting innocence, because that's what good red-blooded Americans do, right? That's what we're supposed to do. You're protectors. That's why you watch me. I'm telling you more. I've had somebody tell me, you're making people more dangerous. Good. I feel like good, armed, dangerous Americans are what we need more of nowadays. So anyway, guys, my thoughts on that, some real food for thought, stuff I actually watched take place. It was kind of jarring because I've been in the game for a long time, so it doesn't affect me the same way. And of course, I've made all these mistakes, and watching people that have never been put under real stress make really, really grave mistakes that would have cost lives in normal situations. And it being because they were unfamiliar with something that was going on, and their brain could not divide task, and they didn't have a knowledge of where they were going. They were so confused. So guys, standardize your kit. Make sure you know where everything is, and then go put yourself under stress and make those mistakes in training so that you don't make these mistakes when the day comes that you need that training. Okay? Food for thought. Good uncle trying to help you guys out at this point. So guys, I am Uncle Freedom. Take care of yourself. Take care of each other. Go ahead and like, subscribe, tell a friend. Hopefully you enjoyed the content. This is a little more somber video, but it's a very, very important point. And anyway, guys, until next time, I'll see you later.